let's be honest. Looking good in your 40s, 50s, even 60s, it's not about competing with younger men. It's about something far more powerful. It's about becoming the man they quietly admire, and the one she never forgets. Because at a certain age, attraction isn't about perfect hair or six-pack abs anymore. It's about presence. It's about depth. It's about knowing who you are and carrying that with zero apology. Most men try to chase youth. Stoic men learn how to age like fire, quiet, steady, unforgettable. And that's what this video is about. 10 secrets to becoming a good-looking older man to any without pretending to be someone you're not. If you're ready to shift from invisible to magnetic, from overlooked to undeniable, subscribe now. This channel doesn't teach tricks. It builds men. Let's get into it. Number 1. Confidence is the most attractive accessory. There's something different about a confident older man. Not cocky, not loud, just steady. Like a mountain that doesn't move when the wind blows. That kind of confidence doesn't walk into the room and try to dominate it. It changes the temperature of the room just by being there. You see, when you're younger, people confuse confidence with noise, flexing, showing off, grabbing attention. But once you hit your 40s, 50s, 60s, the most attractive thing you can wear is quiet certainty. Not the kind that says, "Look at me." The kind that says, "I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to you." And trust me, women feel that. A woman walks into the room and her subconscious starts scanning, not for the guy with the flashiest suit, but for the man who doesn't flinch, the man whose body doesn't fidget, the man who speaks when he chooses, not because he needs to fill the silence, the man who makes eye contact without blinking first. She feels that presence before you say a word. Why? Because confidence isn't a performance. It's an energy signature. It says, "I've seen storms, I've walked through fire. I don't need your approval, but I respect myself enough to move with intention." And let's be blunt, confidence is sexy. It's primal. It communicates competence, power, and control. But here's where most older men get it wrong. They confuse being quiet with being invisible. They think fading into the background is stoic. It's not. True confidence is not about hiding. It's about choosing when to be seen and when you are. Owning the moment fully. You speak slower. You look people in the eye. You're not rushed. You don't laugh nervously to make others comfortable. You don't apologize for your opinions, but you also don't force them down anyone's throat. You are in control of yourself. And that, more than youth or muscles or perfect skin, is what makes women pause. A confident older man reminds a woman of safety, not the boring kind. The kind that says, "You can relax here. I'm not guessing who I am." And the truth? That's rare, especially in a world full of insecure men trying to look secure. Let me make this clear. You don't need to say you're confident. You don't need to act like you are. You need to live it. That means owning your voice. Standing tall, no matter your height. Not chasing validation. Not shrinking when others get loud. And not reacting emotionally to every little comment or look thrown your way. Because when a man's sense of self is solid, women want to orbit it. They want to be around it. They feel safe to let their guard down because you've already dropped the mask. That's power. That's masculinity. That's confidence. And the best part, you don't need to fake it. You've lived enough. You've lost enough. You've learned enough to know what really matters. So stand on that. Let the younger guys worry about status and flexing. You wear your experience like armor. And that's more attractive than anything money can buy. Now let me ask you, have you ever walked into a room and felt the whole energy shift just because you were centered? If you've ever carried that quiet power, drop this in the comments. I've owned the room. And don't move just yet, because in the next part, I'll show you how to look like you never chase trends but somehow always look like the standard. Number 2. Refined, effortless style. Here's the thing about style at this stage of life: you're not dressing to impress anymore. You're dressing to express what you already know about yourself. And women? They don't need labels or logos to be impressed. They're reading your choices, your fit, your posture, your grooming, your restraint. That's why refined, effortless style isn't about following trends, it's about selecting with intention. Because nothing is more attractive than a man who looks like he thought about himself just enough but didn't try too hard. Think about this. A sharp, well-fitted jacket, clean shoes, no unnecessary patterns. Your color palette is minimal but mature. There's no flash, but there's form. There's no shouting, but there's signal. You're saying, without words, I've grown past the phase of trying to stand out. I'm here to stand solid. That right there is visual authority. You see, younger guys dress to catch the room. Older men with refined style, they dress so well you don't even notice what they're wearing first. You just notice them. That's the whole point. Because real elegance doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in how your shirt frames your shoulders, how your watch sits just right on your wrist, not oversized, not flashy, how your scent lingers, not overpowers, how your belt, shoes, and tone of voice all feel like they belong to the same man. It's all about alignment. And here's a secret. Effortless style comes after years of trial and error. It comes when you've figured out what works on your frame, in your life, and for your presence. It's not about being the best dressed man in the room. It's about being the man who looks like he could walk into any room and feel exactly right. Let's not forget grooming. A clean haircut that suits your face, not the trends. Beard or clean shave, whichever looks intentional. Nails trimmed. Skin hydrated. Teeth clean. No, it's not about vanity. It's about respect for yourself and for anyone who has to look at you. Because when a woman sees a man over 40 take care of himself, not obsessively, but consciously, it tells her this. He doesn't chase validation. He chooses what represents him. He's got control. He's disciplined. And maybe, just maybe, he's worth being close to. Now let's talk materials. Soft, strong fabrics, cotton, wool, leather. No synthetic shine. No fake flash. When you touch what you wear, it should remind you that quality doesn't beg for attention, it earns it. And accessories? Keep it lean. One item that speaks like a time-worn leather band or a ring with story behind it. No clutter. No costume jewelry. Just something that says, this has been with me for a while, like most good things in my life. So what's the result? You become that man who doesn't just look good. You feel like you belong wherever you stand. You create comfort, confidence, and curiosity without uttering a word. Because when your style looks effortless, it means you've done the work privately. And every woman who notices you feels that immediately. Let me ask you, have you ever walked past someone and felt their eyes didn't look at your outfit, they looked at the man wearing it? If that's ever happened to you, type it in the comments. I've been noticed. And keep watching, because next, we're stepping into something far more personal. Not what you wear on your skin, but what your body says about how you treat yourself. Number 3. Take care of your body, but don't obsess over it. Look, there's nothing masculine about falling apart. Some men treat aging like an excuse to stop training, to ignore what they eat, to shrug off the back pain, the gut, the shortness of breath. But here's the truth. Your body doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be capable. Because a man over 40 who moves with power, who's still quick, still strong, still present in his own body, commands attention without saying a word. Women don't need you to look like a model, but they absolutely notice when you walk into a room comfortable in your own skin. That starts with ownership. No more blaming metabolism. No more saying, I'm too busy. You make time for the things that hold you together. And here's what's interesting. Stoicism teaches this in plain terms. Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Your body is the first arena of that mastery. not to obsess over, but to discipline with intention. You train not to impress. You train to stay ready. You stay active not because you're afraid of aging, but because you respect the body that's carried you this far. Let's get real. You don't need a complex routine. You need consistency. Stretch your hips every morning. Lift weights 2 or 3 times a week. Walk instead of scrolling. Get sunlight. Sleep like it's medicine. All of this sends one clear message to the world. I'm still in charge. Now imagine this. You're walking down the street, shoulders square, steps firm, not rushed, not stiff, just present. Someone notices not because you're the youngest or the biggest guy around, but because your presence says, this man has standards. That's attractive, deeply, sexually, psychologically attractive, because women are tuned into signals of stability. And when your body is strong, your breath calm, your movement smooth, she picks that up. But here's where it flips. When you obsess, it gets weird. If you talk about your macros on a first date, if you panic every time your abs aren't popping, if you need to earn your meals every single day, you shift from grounded to needy, and that kills attraction. Because obsession is insecurity dressed up in discipline. What works instead? A man who moves with athletic grace not because he's trying to prove something, but because he lives by a code. A man who sweats hard, eats well, and lets the results speak for themselves. You want to age like a Roman soldier, not a pageant contestant. And this is where Stoicism adds even more power. Marcus Aurelius trained daily physically and mentally, yet he never sought praise for his body. He saw the flesh as a vehicle, a servant to the soul. But a neglected servant is a dangerous one. So here's what that looks like in your life. You keep a clean diet because it sharpens your mind. You lift weights because you might need to defend something that matters. You get rest because your mission tomorrow depends on your fuel today. And when a woman sees that in you, she doesn't just see someone fit. She sees a man who's ready. A man who won't fall apart the second life gets hard. That's what seduces at this stage. Not perfection, but command. Now ask yourself, do you treat your body like a partner in purpose or a problem you've given up on? If you train for strength, clarity and control, type it in the comments. I train with purpose. And trust me, you'll want to be here for what's next. Because we're about to get into a part of your presence that leaves a mark long after you've walked away. Number 4. A signature scent that people associate with you in attraction. Let me ask you something. Can you remember the scent of someone you used to want? Or someone you couldn't forget? Because scent doesn't just hit the nose, it hits the memory. It bypasses logic. It lingers. It imprints. A signature scent is one of the most powerful tools an older man can use. And the best part, it doesn't rely on your looks, your clothes, or even your words. It's silent, but unforgettable. A scent travels faster than your voice. Before you even say hello, she's already registering it. And if you wear the same scent consistently, something mature, complex, masculine, without being loud, you start to become associated with that feeling. It's not just cologne. It's a psychological trigger. That's what you want. You want her to catch a whiff of that scent a week later from someone else's jacket in some other city and suddenly think of you. That's how deep scent can go. But here's the mistake most men make. They wear too much, or they pick what's trendy, or worse, they skip it altogether, thinking it's not manly. Let me be very clear. A man who chooses his scent carefully is not less masculine. He's more intentional. He understands that attraction is not just visual, it's sensory. And nothing captures the senses like scent. So how do you pick a signature scent? Go for something warm, rich, and grounded. Notes like leather, sandalwood, cedar, tobacco, oud. Something that matches your agino, fights it. Something that smells like experience. Test it on your skin. Let it sit for hours. Notice how it changes. The best fragrances evolve over time, just like character. They're not one-dimensional. They have layers like you should. When you find the right one, you'll know. It won't shout. It'll stay close. And it'll make people lean in. That's the key. You don't want to be the guy who leaves a chemical trail behind him. You want her to notice it when she's close enough to wonder, what is that? And it's not just about her. Wearing a scent you love changes the way you show up. It anchors you. It sets a tone. It says, I took a moment for myself today. That kind of energy shifts how you walk, how you speak, how you move. You become more present, and people feel that. It's a simple upgrade, but it carries serious weight. Now, this part is important. Once you find the right scent, stick with it. Make it your signature. Let people associate it with your presence, your conversations, your energy. You're not just wearing it. You're building memory through it. And that's how you become hard to forget. Let me put it this way. A signature scent isn't about smelling good. It's about becoming unforgettable without trying to be remembered. And that is pure Stoic presence. You don't beg for attention. You simply leave a mark. So, if you've ever had someone lean in just a little closer, just because of how you smelled, drop this in the comments. I've left a trace. And before we move on, if this kind of content is speaking directly to where you're at in life, if you're the kind of man who wants to age with clarity, power, and presence, subscribe to the channel now. And if you're ready to go deeper, to connect with other men living by Stoic values, to get early access, private content, and real brotherhood, join the Stoic Members Circle. The link's in the description. We're not just building a channel here. We're building a league of men who lead with presence. Now stay with me, because in the next part, we're unlocking something that speaks way louder than style or scent. It's what happens when you open your mouth and she realizes, this man has something to say. Number 5. Mind-engaging conversations. Let's make this clear. Looks get attention, but it's your mind that keeps it. You ever wonder why some guys who aren't the best looking, who don't dress flashy still somehow end up being the ones she remembers? It's because when they speak, they awaken something in her. A man who knows how to lead a conversation, who listens without interrupting, who pauses before responding, who asks questions that go past the surface. That man is dangerous in the best possible way. Because when a woman feels mentally stimulated, she gets emotionally invested. Most men just talk. They talk about their job, their car, their gym routine. It's all output, all performance. But when you know how to shape a conversation that pulls her in, not with tricks, but with genuine curiosity, it hits different. You ask things like, what's something you believe in that most people around you don't? Or, when was the last time you felt fully alive? That's not small talk. That's entry into her inner world. And it's rare. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't about being a smooth talker. It's not about perfect lines or rehearsed charm. It's about being present, really present. You're not waiting to speak. You're paying attention. You make her feel seen, not evaluated. And the best part? This doesn't require a college degree. It requires life awareness, experience, depth, time spent thinking instead of just doing. A man over 40 has this advantage: he's lived. He's had failures, wins, regrets, awakenings. And when he shares those not to impress, but to connect, he becomes magnetic. Because the truth is, most people live in a world of noise. Social media sound bites, thoughtless replies, fast dopamine. So when you come in with silence, reflection, and substance, you disrupt the pattern. And Stoicism sharpens this edge. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So ask yourself, what color are your thoughts? What have you fed your mind lately? Because that's what will show up in your conversations. If all you consume is gossip, distraction, complaint, you'll sound like every other man. But if you've been reading, reflecting, listening, and living, you'll sound like someone worth listening to. And don't underestimate tone. A calm voice, a well-placed pause, an honest admission. Those things hit harder than compliments or cleverness. Here's an example. Let's say she's talking about a bad week at work. Most guys jump in with, "You should quit," or, "Yeah, work sucks." You say, "Sounds like something about that place is pushing your limits. What do you think it's really about?" Boom. Now you're not just in the conversation, you're inside the meaning of it. That's how intimacy begins. Not through touch, through intellectual closeness, through being the man who gives her space to unfold and has something solid to offer in return. And here's the truth. Every strong, confident woman is looking for a man she can learn from. Not someone who preaches, but someone who opens doors inside her own mind that she didn't even know existed. If you can do that, she'll think about you long after the conversation ends, because you made her feel more than attracted. You made her feel understood. Now let me ask you, have you ever had someone lean in during a conversation not because of what you said, but because of how you made them think? If you've ever had that moment, drop this in the comments. I sparked connection. And don't scroll away just yet, because next, we're shifting into a truth most men never realize. A truth that flips the fear of aging into an actual advantage. Number 6. Age with grace, not fear. Let's be real. Aging isn't the enemy. Fear of aging is. The wrinkles, the gray hair, the slower recovery times. Those don't ruin you. What ruins men is the belief that once youth is gone, value disappears with it. That's nonsense. And deep down, you know it. Because if you've been paying attention to life, then with every year, you've gained something much more powerful than smooth skin. You've gained gravity. You walk into a room, and the younger guys might get the first glance. But you get the second look, the lingering look. Why? Because you carry something they can't fake. Experience. But only if you choose to own it. See, most men age with resistance. They panic. They chase trends. They try to stay young instead of growing strong. And that desperation, it shows in how they dress, in how they talk, in how they act like they're trying to compete with 25-year-olds, instead of owning who they are now. But the man who ages with grace, he's different. He doesn't fight time. He partners with it. He updates his focus. He sharpens his purpose. He lets go of shallow validation and leans fully into substance. And that shift? It's attractive. Like, deeply, silently, seriously attractive. Because most women aren't afraid of older men. They're afraid of men who are afraid to grow up. There's a difference between aging and declining. One is natural. The other is neglect. You want to be the man who shows what aging well actually looks like. Not Botox and panic diets, but strength, stability, style, depth. The Stoics had this figured out long ago. Seneca said, "Let us cherish and love old age, for it is full of pleasure if you know how to use it." You don't lose your edge as you age. You sharpen it if you've done your work. And let's not pretend like grace means softness. Grace is calm under fire. It's elegance under pressure. It's restraint when others are reacting, and clarity when others are confused. That kind of grace comes from facing pain, failure, loss, and not letting it rot you, but letting it refine you. So what does aging with grace look like in practice? It looks like not lying about your age, but looking good at it. It looks like telling stories without needing to be the hero in every one. It looks like letting younger men win the attention while you hold the room. It looks like not chasing youth, but mentoring it. Not begging for relevance, but radiating it. And women see this. They sense when a man is grounded. They know when you've made peace with who you are, and they trust it. Because they know. If you've aged well on the inside, you've probably grown solid on the outside too. And that's the man they want near them. Not because he's flashy, but because he's real. So ask yourself, Are you carrying your years like a burden or like a crown? Because there's a way to grow older that makes people lean in closer, not look away. When you stop fearing aging and start owning it, everything shifts. You speak slower but more intentionally. You move slower but more confidently. You need less but give more. That's power. That's presence. That's the kind of man no one forgets. No, have you ever felt more powerful after you let go of trying to be who you once were? If that speaks to you, drop it in the comments. Beware time well. And don't tap out yet. Because next, we're dialing into something that can't be bought, borrowed, or stolen. It's what makes every woman feel safer and more intrigued just by being around you. Number 7. Master the art of mystery and depth. Let's be clear. Being mysterious doesn't mean being quiet. It means being unreadable for the wrong reasons and unforgettable for the right ones. You don't need to say less just to be cool, but you do need to stop explaining yourself all the time. Because when you're constantly giving away your thoughts, your emotions, your stories, you lose gravity. You become predictable. And predictable men don't captivate. So what creates mystery? Simple. Stillness, space, precision. Mystery is when a woman hears you speak and realizes there's more you're not saying. Not because you're hiding, but because you've got layers, and those layers come from depth. Men with depth have lived, they've failed, they've lost, they've risen, but they don't rush to broadcast it. They let their past inform their present, dominate their personality. And when a woman feels that, she doesn't just get curious, she becomes drawn in. Because here's the thing, most guys reveal too much too soon. They confuse honesty with oversharing. They think being open means giving their whole story in the first hour. But mystery is created by what you hold back strategically, calmly, and without apology. You give just enough to spark the mind. You leave room for her to imagine. You leave room for questions. That's what gets under the skin. Now let's talk depth. Depth isn't just about having read big books or been through heavy trauma. It's about how you process your life. It's about having meaning behind your choices. It's about being able to sit in silence without needing to fill it. It's knowing who you are and not feeling the urge to prove it. You want to build depth? Start reflecting. Journal. Spend time in solitude. Study Stoicism, not to quote it, but to live by it. Marcus Aurelius journaled daily not because he was trying to impress history, but because he wanted to understand himself. That kind of man is rare, and rare men are always attractive. Now let's put it into a real-world scenario. You're out with someone, she's laughing, asking questions, leaning in. You don't dominate the conversation. You don't try to charm. You stay grounded. You observe. You speak when there's something worth saying. You mention your travels, but don't show off. You allude to past challenges, but don't dump drama. You tell her what you value, not what you hate. She senses it. There's more under the surface, and she wants to find it. That's mystery. It's not about being cold. It's about being self-contained. You're not a puzzle she has to solve. You're a presence she wants to experience piece by piece. And this hits on a deeper level. Because when a man holds his emotional space, well, women feel safe with him. They feel intrigued. They feel the weight of his calm, not his flash, his stillness. Now, here's the paradox. The more you chase being interesting, the less you become it. But the more you become centered, the more people lean in. Your silence, your gaze, your pauses, they create curiosity. They create tension. They create space for intimacy to happen naturally. So stop explaining. Start embodying. Let your energy say what your mouth doesn't need to. Let your presence do the heavy lifting. And if you've ever seen someone lean closer, pause longer, or go quiet around you, not because you spoke louder, but because you didn't, drop this in the comments. I hold presence. and keep your eyes locked in. Because next, we're getting into a quality most men overlook. But when you carry it right, it becomes the most undeniably masculine part of who you are. Number 8. Heated eyes, quiet power. Let's talk about the eyes. Because no matter how good your style is, how deep your voice sounds, or how sculpted your jawline might be, your eyes will tell the truth. And more than that, they'll transmit something far more seductive than words ever could: intent. When a man carries real presence, his eyes change everything. It's not just about eye contact. It's about what lives behind the look. It's about heat without tension, stillness without coldness. It's the quiet kind of intensity that says, "I see you, I'm not afraid of you, and I don't need anything from you." That stops people, especially women, because most men either stare too hard like they're desperate to dominate the moment, or they avoid eye contact altogether, afraid to be seen. But when a man looks without flinching, when he holds eye contact without trying to impress, he projects calm strength. That's quiet power. Think about it like this. There's a reason why ancient warriors and Stoics alike trained their gaze. They knew the body follows the eyes. They knew that in battle and in life your gaze sets the tone. Seneca once said, "A great mind becomes a calm one, and nothing shows that calm like your eyes." No darting around, no scanning the room for approval, just still, deliberate vision. Now let's take this deeper. Heated eyes don't mean you're angry. They mean you're alive. It's the heat of presence, the heat of awareness, the heat of a man who isn't numbed out or distracted. You don't look at her like you're starving. You look at her like you're present enough to notice, and that changes everything. Here's what most men get wrong. They think attraction comes from movement, from talking, from gestures, from energy. But the real shift happens in stillness. You lock eyes with her. You say less. You let silence stretch, not awkwardly but intentionally. Suddenly, she's leaning forward. She's adjusting. She's reacting to you. Why? Because you've given her a window into your focus without giving her all of you. That's magnetic. And it's not just for dating. This look, this presence is what commands respect in the room. It's what makes you memorable in business, in family, in every space you walk into. Because most peopleman or woman can feel when you're looking through them, not at them. But when you actually see someone and stay relaxed while doing it, it leaves an imprint. It says, "I'm aware of my power, but I don't need to prove it." And that contrast, intensity in the eyes, calm in the body, that's the energy women chase long after the conversation ends. So how do you develop this? Simple. Practice seeing more without reacting. Train your breath. Still your hands. Stop needing to respond to everything around you. The more inner stillness you build, the more external impact your presence has. Because the truth is this: when your eyes are heated with life but not begging for attention, when your power is quiet, not performative, you shift from being a guy she met to a man she remembers. And it doesn't take flashy clothes. It doesn't take a clever pickup line. It takes control of your state and full ownership of your attention. Now ask yourself, have you ever looked at someone and they shifted? Not because of what you said, but because of how you saw them. If you've ever had that moment, write this in the comments. I lead with presence, and you'll want to stay locked in, because next, we're bringing everything together with one final truth. One that ties all this power into something you carry without effort, and women feel without words. Number 9. Stillness makes her lean in. Let's slow it down for a second. Because what we're about to talk about isn't loud, isn't flashy, but it's one of the most powerful forces you can carry as a man. Stillness, not laziness, not apathy, but intentional calm. The kind of stillness that makes people stop and pay attention without knowing why. Because in a world that's always moving, reacting, swiping, and scrolling, a man who doesn't flinch becomes magnetic. Stillness is rare. and rare is attractive. Most men, they fidget, they overtalk, they chase every ounce of attention like it's their last shot at mattering. But the man who sits still, breathes deep, and lets his energy settle, he stands out. Not by force, but by contrast. He becomes a gravity well. And women notice, because stillness signals something primal. Control, confidence, safety, power. You're not frozen, you're centered. You're not passive, you're poised. When she talks, you don't jump in. You listen fully. You let the moment breathe. And then, when you speak, your words hit harder, because they rise out of silence and not noise. That contrast is unforgettable. You don't need to chase attention. You let it come to you. Now here's something most men don't realize. Stillness creates space. And in that space, she leans forward. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally. She wants to fill the silence. She wants to understand what you're thinking. She wants to see if you're stable enough to hold her energy too. And if you are, she'll remember you. Because most of the men she meets are anxious underneath. You feel anchored. And it's not something you fake. It's something you build. You build it by breathing deeper, by slowing your pace, by not needing to impress. It's Stoicism in action. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." And stillness is listening with your whole presence, not just your ears. And it doesn't mean being silent the whole time. It means you're not rushed. You're not scrambling for the next clever line. You're not looking around for something better. You're here, with her, in control of yourself. That kind of energy is addicting. She leans in, not because you pull her, but because the stillness gives her room to feel safe, intrigued, and subtly challenged. And here's the truth. Stillness makes everything else more powerful. Your voice carries more. Your eyes say more. Your presence feels heavier. Because stillness means you're not reacting to the world. You're responding when it matters. So let me ask you, have you ever had someone lean closer, speak softer, or open up more just because you didn't rush to fill the silence? If that sounds like you, drop this in the comments. I move with stillness. And hold your ground, because we're not done. What comes next isn't about how you look, how you dress, or what you say. It's about something she feels after you're gone. And it's the mark of a man she won't forget. Number 10. Your voice is your scent. Let's be honest, most men never think about their voice. They focus on their looks, their clothes, their bank account. But your voice, that's the part of you she hears in her mind when you're not around. Your voice is like a scent. It stays. It lingers. It wraps around memory like smoke. And if you learn to use it right, it becomes your most subtle, most powerful form of presence. Think about it. Have you ever heard someone speak and instantly felt calmer, or more curious, or just drawn in? That wasn't about the words. It was about tone, pace, energy. Now here's what most guys get wrong. They talk fast. They pitch their voice too high when they get nervous. They try too hard to sound impressive. And what happens? They lose her. Because when a man speaks without grounding, he sounds like he's chasing approval. But when he speaks slowly, low, and with space between his words, she leans in. Your voice is not just how you communicate. It's how you anchor attention. And the best voices, they don't shout. They don't beg. They don't perform. They carry weight. Weight that says, I'm not in a rush. I've got nothing to prove. I've been through enough to know I can take my time. And it's not about sounding like James Earl Jones or Morgan Freeman. It's about letting your voice come from your core, not your throat. Drop it lower, breathe slower, pause longer. Make silence your punctuation. Because here's the truth. The man who controls his voice controls the moment. He sets the rhythm of the room. He guides emotion without force. He draws her in without ever moving closer. Your voice becomes a feeling, something she associates with calm, with focus, with strength. It becomes your auditory fingerprint, and over time, she connects that tone with how she feels around you. Safe, intrigued, held not physically, but emotionally. That's why your voice is your scent. You don't see it, you don't touch it, but once it's in the air, it lingers. She could hear a stranger speak in a similar tone months from now, and suddenly you're back in her mind. Now here's a little practice for you. Next time you're in conversation, lower your voice just slightly. Slow your tempo by half a second per sentence. And when it matters, most pause. That pause, that's where the impact lives. Because when the world is noisy, fast and frantic, the man who speaks with measured calm becomes unforgettable. You don't have to be loud to leave a mark. You just have to be intentional. So speak like someone who knows his voice is part of his legacy. Not just what you say, but how it feels to be spoken to by you. That's how your presence lingers. Like scent, like memory, like something she wants more of but can't quite explain. And if this video sparked something in you, if a part of you said, yeah, that's the man I want to become, then don't just watch and scroll. Subscribe to the channel, because we're not stopping here. Every day, we drop something that sharpens you, your mindset, your presence, your power. And if you're ready to go deeper, join the Stoic Brotherhood. That's our private space for men like you. Men who are done performing and ready to start leading from within. It's not for everyone, but if you feel it in your gut, it's for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you right here tomorrow.